Alright, check this bike out. We got this thing for $1,000. This is a 2004 RMZ 250. We just own the 450 version of this bike in a 2005, but this is a 2004 250, which I've never owned before, so this one should be pretty fun. The owner stated that he picked this thing up a while ago and could not get it running right. He said that it would take forever to start up, and once it started, it would only run for about a minute and then shut off. Also, he said it was shooting flames out the back when it did start. So this bike appears to be all stock except for a couple things. So it looks to me like a aftermarket silencer. I'm not sure what brand. If anyone knows in the comments, let me know, but it's circular. And it looks like the header pipe is stock. You can see it's a little loose right there, so it's missing that gasket there. It's got RG3 triple tree on there. Has a red chain. I believe it has a stock carb, hopefully. Yeah, it looks like a key in the carb on there. Pro taper bars, and then it's got the ASV levers here. But other than that, the bike is completely stock. Tires on this thing are pretty bald, front and rear, so I'm guessing this thing was ridden pretty hard. They're not dry rotted at all though. But the engine looks pretty tight, so we're hoping we can get this bike up and running in one day. That's the goal. Hopefully it's something simple. I'm hoping all it's going to take is like a carb clean, but it could be something as serious as needing a rebuild. So we're going to see if we can get lucky today and get this thing fixed. But yeah, not a bad price for a 250 if we can get it running. We will see. What do you think, Vin? You see the bike? He's like, that looks like a piece of junk. Yeah, we'll see. So let's get this thing unloaded, get it in the garage, start tearing into it. It'll be interesting to see what we find. Alright, just for fun, we're gonna see if this thing fires up. See if there's any gas in it. Alright, it's getting gas now. We'll twist the throttle a couple times. Get that accelerator pump working. Alright, let's see what happens. Well, she didn't want to fire, but she popped over a couple times. You could hear it want to go, so I'm hoping it's going to take a simple carb clean. Alright, got the bike in the garage. Let's start digging into it, see if we can fix up this bike. We are going to check the oil first, see what that looks like. You can see there's a little sight window right there. It appears to be a little low. Let's see what this oil looks like here. I don't know if this thing's been rebuilt or not. I have no idea. Previous owner didn't mention anything like that. It looks pretty clear, the oil. There we go. Doesn't look too bad. See if there's any coolant in here. Uh-oh. It's low on coolant. I don't see any in there. Not a good sign. Alright, it's got an air filter on it. It's not very tightly on, but it's on there. Yeah, that screw's really loose. Tighten that back up, but we'll probably clean out that air filter. Looks like it's been on there for a while. Yeah, this bolt is loose. Alright, before we take off the gas tank, just want to make sure we're getting gas to the carb. It looks like we're going to be. Make sure that gas flows good. This is brand new fuel, yep. You can see gas flows perfect, so we are good there. Definitely getting gas to the carb. Get the spark plug out and see if we have spark. That's the next thing. There we go. Now we can get to the spark plug boot. Take that off. That looks good. We'll just untwist this. Make sure we're getting good contact here. We'll cut that back 1/4 of an inch. You can't really see too much exposed. Now we're checking all the easy stuff first, making sure it's nothing simple that we're missing. Get this screwed back on. We'll get that plug out of there. We're hoping it's not the bottom end that went on it. That would really suck. But if it is, we'll have to rebuild it. Let's see. It's on there. Oh, man. Yeah, it looks like a fairly new plug. CR9 EB plug. It looks like it wasn't running lean or anything. Actually, looks like it was running rich. But it was shooting flames out the back, the guy said. Interesting. Well, let's see if we have any spark here. Yeah, we got spark. We'll probably throw a new plug in there right away. Definitely have spark though. Looks like that might be fouled out though. So, we'll take that out right away. And the coil's kind of in the way. we go. One more. Might have to get that coil pack out of the way first. Let's see. I might be able to get it off. Yep. Gonna fit right underneath there. There we go. Alright, cam chain's pretty tight. Not super loose. In there. Everything looks pretty decent so far from what I can see. So yeah, let's check out those valves next. It's like an oil drain plug. Weird. Bottom cap comes up. Well, that was pretty loose. A single mark, I believe it is, on this one. Let's see. Okay, so on this flywheel, it's a little different. There's gonna be 3 marks. 1 mark, and then there's 2 marks that are close to each other. So we're in between the 2 marks right now. And according to the manual, it just says find mark A, which they don't even say is mark A. But a lot of people on forums say just put it between the 2 marks that are close together. So that's what we're gonna do. And I did that, and I confirmed it was tapped dead center with the screwdriver right here. So the furthest point the screwdriver goes up, that's tapped dead center, and that was between the 2 marks. So we're gonna use that. And it looks like the timing's spot on. So that dot is parallel with the surface of the head right there. That one's straight up and down, that one's straight up and down, and that one's parallel with the surface of the head. So timing looks good. All right, so valve clearances for the 2004 RMC 250. Intake are gonna be 4 thousandths to 6 thousandths, and exhaust are gonna be 7 to 9 thousandths. Yeah, that fits perfect. That one's tight, I think. Yep. So that one's not going in. We're gonna drop that down to 3 thousandths and see if that goes in. Nope, 3 thousandths does not go in. To the left side over here, so we'll drop it to our lowest setting. Otherwise, we know that this one's gonna be tight. Yeah, so that one's tight. So that's why this bike was not starting. That would definitely lower compression. So the left intake is tight. You can see we're at 2 thousandths and it's not going in at all. So it's definitely either close to 0 or at 0 for that clearance. Check the exhaust valves next. We'll set them to 7 thousandths here. Let's see. That one just slides in perfect. That one just slides in perfectly. We'll go to the highest setting, 9, and see if they slide in here. That one is really tight at 9, and that one's really tight at 9, so those are perfect for the exhaust. So we have 1 intake valve off right here. And what we're gonna do to just confirm that it's lower compression is do a compression test and show you guys the difference of compression when we shim this valve. Throttle open here. see what happens. So we're looking at about 70 pounds compression right there with that tight intake valve. So now let's fix that tight intake valve and get a new reading. It should go way up. All right, we set this back to top dead center after kicking it over. And now we're gonna take the cam chain tensioner out. But before we do that, we kind of have to get the carb out of the way. Come on. Carb's on there pretty good. Jeez. It's a hot start. It's barely in there yet. Looks like somebody had the carb out. Can the carb not come out through this way? Well, at least it's out of the way. There we go. Still working. That's good. These bolts can come out. Everything looks good there. Now we can just take this cam out and then let the chain dangle here. On the exhaust cam. Bearing feels good on this cam. Lobes are perfect. That's all looking good. Now we can get this bucket out. That pulled right out, and as you can see, there's a little shim in there. So, here is the shim, right here. We're gonna measure that first, see what size we're dealing with here. Looks like it's gonna be 2.14 millimeters. So we have our shim size of 2.14 millimeters. We measured that earlier. And we want a size of 0.005 inches, 5 thousandths, or that's converted to 0.127 millimeters. So we're assuming that the valve is set to 0 right now because we couldn't get the feeler gauge in there on the smallest setting. So we're assuming it's 0. It could be way less than 0. It could be like right next to 0, but we're assuming it's 0 for now. we might have to make adjustments once we go up a size on the shim. We won't know an exact size until we can fit the feeler gauge in there. So right now we're assuming it's 0. So what we want to do is take our shim size, subtract the 0.127 millimeters to give us a new shim size of 2.013 millimeters. And we're subtracting because we want the shim smaller so that we can get a feeler gauge in there. Right now it's too tight. So when you make the shim smaller, that bucket's gonna sit lower, and the gap between the bucket and the cam is going to be bigger. So that's why we want to make that valve smaller. Then we can get the feeler gauge in there. So let's look for a shim size of 2.013. We've got our hot cams shim kit here. All right. A lot of times these are not the correct size, so we want to measure them. So this one's 2.05. Let's just see what that's at. 2.01, and that's going to be exactly what we want. So I think we're going to use that one first. All right, so we got the new shim in there. Everything is perfect. The 5/1000 feeler gauge fits in there perfectly, so that's all set to go. We're getting the cam back in place, and the cam chain fell off the sprocket down here. So we're taking out the flywheel and trying to fix this. So you can see that does not look good. The chain is off of there. See how it came off the bottom sprocket there. So there's this tab right here is bent way down. That's supposed to prevent that from happening. So we're gonna take that off. So that tab, see that? It's all distorted. It should have been bent up more, preventing that chain from coming off of there. So what we can do, there we go. Straightened out here. Oh, what the heck happened to it? That made it like that. Put that in the vise and give it a couple pounds. That looks good. Alright, let's just see. See, now it can't come off. That looks perfect. Alright, let's just confirm the valves here. Got it set to 5/1000. Slides in. Slides right in. That's the one we adjusted. That one's perfect. And then we'll go to the exhaust valves. Make sure those didn't move at all. Perfect. Perfect. So all the valves are good to go. Then you can see cam chain's nice and tight. So what we're going to do is now test compression again and see if it went up at all. And we do have a decompression mechanism on here, so it might not make a big difference while we're kicking it over, but it will while the bike is running. Yeah, it's about the same, but it'll be a lot better once we get the bike running. Compression will shoot up and run a lot better. Let's see if we can get this carburetor out now. Got the throttle cable disconnected. If we can get these hoses out right here, I think we can get it out through here. There we go. Alright, let's see. Yep. Alright. Looks like it's silicone in place. Looks like it must have been leaking gas. Got gasket maker all over it. Exciting. Acceleration pump doesn't look like it's working. Nothing's squirting. There's another potential problem. Alright, let's get this open. I'm not liking all the gasket maker around it. So it's definitely getting gas. A little gunk in there. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. Let's see if it sprays through right here. See if that port's clogged. Oh, that's open. I think it's an aftermarket pipe on there. Get that out. We'll have to see what the needle position's at as well. Right here, yep. Luckily that came out. Alright, check out the needle. Needle looks good. Float looks good. Alright, let's get those jets out of there. And possibly a jet change. So here's the little starter jet. That's a 68. That was clear. And here's the pilot coming out. Curious to see what this one's at. He said it was shooting flames, so to me that's lean, but we'll see. 40 pilot. That one's clogged. So here's the fuel screw right here. So me turns out. We're at one turn out on the fuel screw. Now, checked all that out. Choke is working, that's good. Put that off to the side. We're gonna check the accelerator pump here next. It's right there. Hopefully everything looks good here. Got our spring. All the O-rings are in place. So that looks good. Yeah, that all looks pretty good. They had some gasket maker in there too. Make sure those passageways are clear. Yep. That looks good. Make sure these are clear. Yep. Yep. So everything's clear there. Another one we can check is right here. On the side here. I think that's clogged. We'll have to blow through there some more, but that was pretty clogged. Alright, so we'll clean this up a bit and check out and see what size jets we're supposed to have in here. Alright, so stock for this thing is 40 for the pilot and 178 for the main. And FMF, which I believe what the pipe is, I think it is at least, they recommend that I run a 165 main and a 42 pilot. So we will do that after the first start and then kind of tune it from there, because I don't know if it is an FMF pipe or not. So we'll see how it runs stock first, and we can always change it from there. All right, we put some gas in this thing. Now watch right here. See it squirting gas? So accelerator pump's working now. Sweet. So now we can reinstall that. All right, we've got a brand new spark plug going in. All right, for the first start attempt, we're just gonna add a little bit more oil to it, just so that it fills up this window. All right, that's topped off. It wasn't super low. All right, well, choke it, get the gas on, give it a couple twists with the throttle, get that accelerator pump going, and we'll see if this thing fires up. She does not want to go. I don't know what's going on. That's really weird. Not even a pop. Nothing at all. Alright, just get done checking the spark plug. We've got good spark to the brand new plug. I checked timing again, timing's spot on. And I checked the valve clearances again, and those are perfect. So everything I double checked, everything's perfect. So carburetor's looking good too. Accelerator pump I checked in here, and that's still working. So it's pumping gas directly into the cylinder. There's no reason why this thing shouldn't fire up. I don't get it. It's really weird. I don't know what's going on with it. Alright, looked at the manual. Compression's supposed to be 114. We were reading 70. I put some Marvel mystery oil. We got it up to 90 psi now. So I think we've got a stuck ring or worn out rings, but compression's definitely low. So I'm thinking the rings are stuck. We're gonna continue to put Marvel mystery oil down there and see if we can get these rings to come loose. Because compression shot way up when we added this. So I think it's low compression. All right, here we go again. Let's see if she fires up. She won't even pop over, so I don't know what's going on. When we first got this bike, it was sounding like it wanted to go, so I don't get it. It's not that low compression, it's 90 pounds compression when it should be 114. So I don't know, it should at least pop over. That's really weird. Alright, so we did a leak down test on it, just to hear where air was coming from. So we hooked up a air compressor to here, and then just kind of listened when this thing was at top dead center. I didn't hear any air coming out of the carb, no air out of the pipe. Just, I heard some air coming out of the case here. So right here and right here, which means rings. So air is seeping by the rings. And that's pretty common, you know, you'd hear a little bit. This was quite a bit. The main thing I wanted to check was the head gasket. And you'd be able to hear bubbles coming out of here when you take the cap off. And I didn't see any air or bubbles coming out of the radiator. So head gasket looked good. And all the valves were tight and sealing. So it's gotta be the piston and the rings. Made a makeshift decompression release mechanism holder here. So this holds it in place so that it bypasses it. And we kicked it over a bunch of times and we still are only getting 70 pounds compression. So I definitely think there's a ring stuck or like a really badly scored cylinder, because we are not getting above like 70, 80 pounds of compression. It seems like we put oil in it, it jumps up to about 90, and after a while it comes back down to 70. So this should be like 150, 160, 170 in this area. So that's probably why it's not starting. All right, I just dumped a bunch of Marvel Mystery Oil down it, and we let it sit for like 10 minutes. We're gonna kick it over and see if it has enough compression to fire up for a brief second. Then that tells me for sure it's compression, which I kind of already know, but I'm just interested to see if those rings can free up. Let's see. Close. So yeah, you can see it did fire up for a brief second by adding that oil, so definitely low compression. All right, I think we're gonna tear this thing down, see what that piston looks like. I'm thinking it's a stuck ring, but we don't know until we tear it down. So let's tear it down and see what we're dealing with. Drain plug is right there. Go. See what this oil looks like. Okay, that looks pretty clear. Looks like brand new oil. Huh. Not seeing any metal chunks or anything. Well, oil checks out. So hopefully we get lucky and the bottom end's fine. But yeah, not a single speck of metal in there. I'm curious to see what that filter looks like. There, that came off. That looks good. Here's the oil filter. No chunks or anything in there. That looks good. See if the impeller spins with the engine. Yep. Alright, so that looks good too. Take that off. That looks good. Drop the chain down, doesn't make a difference. But exhaust valve, you can see decompression mechanism. It's working. Bearings working. Intake valve. Coming. Doesn't look bad. Alright, head is off. That looks good. It's a Vertex piston. Huh. That's a nice piston then. So, we'll see if those rings are stuck. But arrow's pointing the right way on it. Doesn't look like the piston's all chewed up or anything. Cylinder looks smooth. What is going on here? There's something. Let's see. Cylinder looks good. Piston ring isn't stuck. What the heck? That's weird. So we'll get the piston off, take a closer look. But so far everything looks good. Alright, we got the piston off here, and crank looks good. No play up and down. So a little side to side there. Looks brand new in there. So, not sure what's going on. It looks like we've got a Vertex piston with a Cylinder Works cylinder. So it was rebuilt, and they put a nice kit on there. Probably over a $500 kit. And yeah, cylinder looks perfect too. All the valves look really nice too on the bottom here. And we know none of them were bent because the compression was higher than 0. So Yeah, those all look perfect too. So let's see if the ring was in correctly, and we'll take a close look at the ring gap and everything. But yeah, everything looks really good. No cracks or anything on the piston. Top of the piston was clean. Looks like it's an 80 millimeter. Alright, take a look at the ring here. See if this was on correctly here. So here's the top of it. It looks like they put the ring on backwards. The beveled end is down here. It should be up here like that. So the ring was on opposite of what it should be. So that's one problem, but that wouldn't make it not start. See, that one's bent a little bit. See that? The end of that? I've had this on both RMs now. It's like bent a little bit on the end. What that's about. See what it looks like inside the cylinder here. Yeah, it's the right size piston. Let's see what the ring gap is. Well, that's probably why. The ring gap is massive on this thing. Yeah, that's huge. Look at that. That's a really big ring gap. Let's see here. It's way bigger than the highest setting on here. Yep. So it's over 24 thousandths. Let's see if it's... Yeah. Okay, so it was 34 thousandths. I put two of these feeler gauges together, and that's the gap it could fit. So 34 thousandths, it should be right around 14 thousandths. So obviously that's way big. You can see how massive that looks. So ring was definitely worn out. Cylinder feels good. Oh, cracks or gouges on the cylinder. It's all smooth. So I think it was just a worn out piston and ring. That's my guess. Because everything else looks perfect. I came back to the crank because when we had this thing fired up, you could hear it fire up, then it would like instantly die. Like it was getting locked up or something. So I came back to the crank and I was just cranking this thing over. There's zero play up and down, but look at this. Now, look at that. See how the rod's stuck like that? It's stiff, it's not moving. It's moving with the crank. Look at that. I think the rod bearing is toast. Look at this. There, now it's moving. See? Now it's fine. So, I think that is junk. There's no play up and down, only side to side. So, unfortunately, it looks like the crank will need to be replaced too, at least the rod. But at least that makes more sense now as to why it wouldn't start as easily and why it like abruptly shut off. And the seller did say it would only run for about a minute and then it would shut off. So I'm thinking that is the culprit. And I'm guessing he changed out the oil so we couldn't see any metal chunks in there, or just assumed that, you know, the oil was dirty, let's throw some new oil in it and see if it fires up. So I'm guessing that's why the oil looks so new as well. So unfortunately, the worst case scenario, bottom and top end rebuild. So that is a big bummer. I thought we were gonna have a running and driving bike today, but obviously that's not gonna happen. So we found that the rod bearing was bad, the piston rings were worn, and I think the carburetor needs a rebuild. We'll get rid of that gasket maker on there and probably get a mid-body carburetor gasket kit for it. We'll get a new piston. We'll keep the cylinder, that looks good. We'll keep the valves. We'll tear those down once we do the bottom end and look at those before ordering parts, but I'm sure those are fine. And so yeah, it's not too bad. We bought this thing for $1,000, so we still have some money to throw around. So for a new rod, a new piston, and a carb rebuild kit, that'll probably be under $400, I would think. So it wasn't too bad. I was hoping we were gonna get this bike running and driving today, but obviously that did not happen. It is way worse than what I thought it would be, but obviously you can't win on every project. I'm just happy we looked at the crank again and found that it was getting tight when we spun that thing over, because there's no play up and down. So I wouldn't have known it if I didn't keep on rotating over the engine. And I could tell when I was kicking it sometimes it would get like hard to kick. And I was thinking compression was going up, but I think it was the crank being tightened up there. It's always a mystery digging into these old bikes, and you kind of never know what you're gonna get. But this one will be a good runner once we get the new piston, the rod, and the rebuild kit for the carb. So stay tuned for that video. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the teardown on this thing and diagnosing it. It was a challenge for sure. So stay tuned for next video, and until next time, we are out.